Hello there, sir. Are you in the new house?
Yeah, I'm in my new place.
Well, after our leader, Mr. Sell, has a fancy house now in Tampa, we should get a fancy house in Tampa.
Yeah. Where is he? I thought he was here.
He's here. I don't think he can hear us though. Now's the time to say not nice things about him.
No way. He'll hear me eventually
That's true. That's true.
on the recording. I don't want to say mean things to you on your birthday. So
I would never say mean things to you on your birthday either, sir.
Can y'all hear me? I can't
We can
hear
you
y'all.
now. Yes, sir. Hello, are you in the new house?
All right.
Can you hear us?
I heard him a minute ago when he said y'all. I think while we're waiting, maybe he can give us a tour of the house.
Oh, that'd be amazing. He can't hear that instruction, but
Hey, I have a question.
Interesting.
So
I can't hear anything. 1 second.
I see it now. Sensei Michael, instead of saying like the group, I see like whoever's speaking.
okay, just swipe over.
I tried. I can't. Hold on.
Hey, gentlemen.
Oh, what's up there, sir?
How
How are
you guys
you?
doing? Good.
I was sorry to see that you're not going to be in the ring this week or next week, whenever that is.
Yeah, me too. It's pretty common with amateur fights, but I was pretty angry that day.
I depending on how it went, I was gonna like challenge you to your next fight. I think I'm in.
Well, stop. Listen, we wanted to introduce you to your challenger, Mr. Nick Kokinis, has been
Nice.
training, and yeah, him
did train at one point.
and the commander.
That's true.
The commander, yes.
Yeah, so Adam Run, I'm not sure if you guys know Nick Kokinis. He's one of the partners over at EFC. He's been a great friend and partner of Action Karate for the head. How many years have we worked together now, Nick? Maybe 2, 3?
2 or 3. It's been quite a ride. And I know Ron, and I've met Adam at different trade shows. How are you, Ron? Long time.
Yeah, man. We've spent a lot of time together, actually.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Amazing. Wow, we got the gang all here. So wait, Mr. Sal, what I was trying to ask, are you in the new house?
Yes, that's the new
okay.
house behind me.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you. God, it's been a long journey, but we're here, so that's good.
Are you
You
like
should give us a
unpacked?
tour.
I have you guys on my iMac. That's 28 inches or whatever. It's going to be a weird tour.
Is it a real long extension cord? You can just like drag it through the house?
That's right. I don't think I have a power cord long enough.
There you go. Must be a big house then.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. Adam, sorry to hear about the fight. Happy birthday, Solomon. Big day for everybody.
Yeah, happy birthday, Solomon.
And Michael.
Really.
Michael's birthday as
25.
well. Yeah, exactly. I just graduated.
Good.
So what I wanted to
Good
start with
sunblock.
today, so I'm not sure if we all had a chance to listen to the podcast that we shared, but I thought it would be interesting to go around and I want to hear everyone's first video game that you remember either purchasing or playing or system, what it was.
We're gonna
Video.
I'll
date
go first.
ourselves.
Are you going to date yourself? Is that what you said?
I don't remember what the video game was called, but it was like a square at the bottom, like a rectangle little thing at the bottom, like a pong.
Yeah.
But it wasn't pong. It was like the square ball bounced and you had to keep it up in the air and it kept like breaking, like the ceiling, like breaking whatever's above that. You got points every time something broke. You had to like keep it going back and it was like, I forget what it was called, but it was probably like on like an Apple C or something.
Or it's called Breakout or something like that, wasn't it?
I think you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Mr. Kuiper, stop acting like you're our age.
I remember the game. My dad had an Apple II GS computer that had a lot of those on there.
What was your first system or game, Mr. Kuiper?
First, that was actually mine was Sega Genesis back in the day because
That was mine too. Mine was Sega
I was
too.
the only kid at my private Christian school that had Mortal Kombat. So like all the kids would want to come over and then their parents would get pissed at my parents. So that was fun.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah, we used to play California games on my dad's Apple. That was like my favorite game back in the day.
yeah, so mine was also a Sega, and I think my first game was like an Aladdin, like Disney game. But my favorite
was
game I
awesome.
remember was called Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and you would go around and pretty much just like shoot zombies.
Nice. I remember
Just
that
now
game too.
several hit TV shows. So
So there used to be a dollar movie theater by my home, and they had the most glorious Mortal Kombat arcade system that you put, I don't know, a quarter in there and play all afternoon. And so that's where I spent, the youth. Not that I'm not far from the youth, but and then Nintendo was my first system.
okay.
Yeah, and Mike Tyson's Punch Out. You guys remember that game? I was a champ at that
Heck
game.
yeah.
Like I could, Bald Bull and Glass Jaw Joe or whatever his name was, and you always got to fight Mike Tyson. I'd beat him. It was great.
I think I just read something that said that if you were super good at that game when it was popular, the way that you show homage now is you get a face tattoo
Okay.
to
all right.
show that
right.
you really care. So I'm just making a suggestion.
I think I can put
Not
a
any
face tattoo on
suggestion,
right
just
now.
giving you some fact.
So,
I think-
Not don't do
So-
the mustache or eyebrows.
which one gets you the fake eyebrows though? That's what I was asking.
Oh, I don't. I think it was on my
What video
computer, and it was like I don't know. My computer. I don't know if you guys can bear. My phone is so jacked up right now. I don't even know what's happening. But my eyebrows are all real, all real. I know a lot of people are surprised by that. Girls really
I think
dig
that's
it.
your sentiment most time we're on Zoom together, not exactly sure what's happening, but like we're all here for the ride.
That's true. That's true.
All right, so anyway, as we're talking about video games, I found that podcast so interesting, for me at least, the evolution of the arcade world where the whole goal was to make you lose the game, which to me, like, I never thought of it that way, but like, oh, that's the only way this works, right? If you keep losing. And then the evolution of video games in your house, where it was all about staying on the game as long as possible. It was so much to discover in the world, right? So the question, as Solomon and I were talking about this a little bit, like where, and I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, but like what is like the evolution of martial arts going to be? Like the video games took a giant swing. It's a whole different world. Like what's the evolution for us going to be? And this also kind of, I want to talk about we had our Great Depression conversation last time too. Maybe we can also kind of weave that into like, okay, if we knew in 7 years there was going to be depression, let's assume it's going to happen, right? We don't have to discuss like if it's going to happen. Let's pretend it is. Like, what needs to happen to make sure we all survive it?
100%.
Big questions, Michael.
All right, I'm on mute now. Have fun. I'll see you guys in a bit.
Thanks. I'm sorry, Ron. You got to start this. You're the tech guy of the group. I feel like the future is in your hands.
Oh, was that right? Well, I thought you were going to
Okay,
start it
sure.
because you're the big guy helping everybody.
So
So
I'm there with you, but I'm just gonna go based on whatever you say.
no,
Nick, nobody cares about anything of what we think, but so that's good.
I'm along for the ride, like Mike was saying earlier.
yeah. I mean, I think I've said this before a few podcasts ago, but I mean, right now, student service, parent service, is so crucial, right? Like developing these deep relationship now, so that we're not thought of as something that they can, just quit, right? Where their lives change. My dad always talked about how when people came in the dojo, they got to be different than when they leave, right? And so just kind of anchoring the positive parts of martial arts every single class, and maybe going overboard, now, right? So that we're, more important to everybody. I mean, I think that's crucial at this juncture. If they look at us as something that's going to be something they can cancel because they're tight on funds, or do they look at us as, we are their rock, we're their safe harbor. When they come to us, they feel a sense of, belonging and joy and, goal set. I'm not goal setting, when they come to us, they really feel like it's a different place in the world out there. Bad news out there, good news in the martial arts school. I think those are crucial steps. And, I've done that. We just upped our game, and, right before we raised rates at our school. No, I'm just kidding. So, I've, we've been there when we thought that, things were going south, and we just up it even more than we already are. So that's what I think.
Yeah, it was interesting. When COVID happened, I was in one of our schools full time still. And when I looked back those few months later of all the people that we lost, between March, 14th and April 14th, whatever it was like super clearly the people we didn't have a good connection with. I mean, there was no like getting around it. It was like, oh, this kid's been here for 2 weeks. Like, oh, we don't know his name. Yeah, okay, that's why. Like, it was so painfully obvious. And, for our schools, our retention got so much better, I think, throughout COVID because we were so hyper focused on it. Like, oh crap, we just messed this up. We have a chance to fix
Right.
it. You better fix it now.
Well, have you ever had the experience where you're in the grocery store and you see a student they haven't seen in a while? You didn't even know they quit, right? It's like you haven't seen them in a year, but it only seems like a couple of weeks, right? Those are the people that's quitting, the ones that we don't have that strong relationship with, I think.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, that's the reason. Sorry, keep going.
no, you're good. You can go ahead, Solomon.
No, I was gonna say that's the reason. Like, if you study marketing or any business, it's the idea that they just don't think they quit any company is the thought of indifference. Like, it doesn't really matter. Although, before you add whatever you're going to add, everything you're saying, Mr. Sell, is of course, everybody agrees that this whole business and any business is just connection, right? Like a feeling. But I just keep thinking like we've never gone through a depression, like bread lines, 30% unemployment. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's got to be deeper than like these ideas. Like these ideas, I guess, are the root of it. But like, I don't know. I mean, like if there's really a depression, think about how it affected people do it with that, jumping off roofs and, hoarding cans of food for, their entire lives. It's got to be a much more challenging thing than like 08 or now or whatever people think is like, oh, that were tough times. They weren't really that tough.
So we're going to go there.
Yeah. See, I thought Robin was just going in the future, but going there, Solomon, since you're leading us that way, I think it's going back to almost like COVID. How do you make yourself essential as a business? Like it was different reasons for COVID. It was just to try and stay open and a little bit of getting them to allocate their whatever money they had towards your business. But I think, what do we do to make martial arts essential to where parents are like, no matter what, we cannot drop this for our kids because their future depends on it. And I think I mentioned this before, but I think teaching like essential skills to kids that we know they're going to need in life, like how to manage money, how to invest, how to do time management, all of those things will help to make us more essential. I don't know if that's the answer for the middle of a depression, but I think also if we are heading to a depression, I think the amount of community outreach that you're doing is going to be super important, because if you're the one business when all the shit is hitting the fan that's actually going out there and helping others and making it a point to make an impact on the people around you in your community, I think that you're going to be in the spotlight when bad times hit in a good way, because you're going to be known as that business that's always going above and beyond to make the community better and is always there to help and assist people. And people are going to want to be a part of a movement like that during bad times.
All right, there's no pitching on this show.
I'm not pitching.
A movement like
movement.
that.
Sorry.
Oh,
I can't get the word relentless.
I mean, we all got to take action at some point. Just kidding.
That's funny. Piggybacking off of what Adam was saying, everyone talks about being part of a tribe. You're part of a tribe. This is our tribe. This is who we are. I guess a good question is, when do you really identify as, I am a part of this? I am a martial artist. I am going to be here regardless if I'm at the academy. Do I walk around feeling like I truly am this being? And I think it needs to be sooner. It needs to be sooner in the process of while you're training, that you, after, is it 6 months? Is it 1 year? Is it, do I have a black belt now? I'm a black belt martial artist, or is it first belt in, second belt in? That thought of being, I am this, needs to be a lot sooner in the process, so that when tough times hit, I can't remove that piece of me. So I think that's kind of the area I would try and drive in.
And I think that comes with them feeling a sense of progress and transformation in what they're doing. So interesting. I don't think I told you guys this yet, but we had about 80 different clients send us class footage of at least 15 minutes of their classes, all the way up to an hour. And I hate to say, there's a lot wrong on the mat that's happening in martial arts schools that's going to lead people to quitting as soon as things get uncomfortable. It's like, and I think a lot of it is because over Zoom and the pandemic, we just lost focus on what the essential teaching skills were. Like Ron, you had a great book back in the day that I used to reference all the freaking time on teaching. And I think a lot of those core principles just got forgotten about over COVID, just from watching all this class footage. So I think if we can get back to a culture of like coaching kids up and correcting them and not just leading the class through repetitions to do the repetitions, or being a high five factory when like you see a kid doing the move incorrectly over and over again, but you give them a high five because you want to make them feel good. Like, I think if we start actually focusing on the transformation and coaching these kids up so they're feeling confident, their body is athletically changing as they're training, they're looking like martial arts athletes and not just like a kid that wears a martial arts uniform as a costume. I think a lot of that is going to be really essential, because as parents, if we think about like, if we have our kids in, I don't know, basketball or football and money gets tight, we're going to think, well, is my kid even good at basketball? Are they even good at football? Have they gotten better? Like, is it worth continuing to invest in that if we haven't seen any progress in them up to this point? Like, all those questions are going to go through your parents' heads. So I think we have to go back to like actually making sure our kids are progressing physically and not just progressing via belt.
Hallelujah.
100%.
How often are you reporting progress to the students and parents? I mean, how routine is that process? Like Dave Kovar would always share that every single day his goal is to meet with 3 students and parents until he cycles through all of the students in the academy. And that was just his thing. He would just go every single, maybe not him personally, but the team would go through every single one. And that would be his way to at least touch base one way. But how much progress reporting is important.
Or just communication in general. And then like, if you have drop-off parents, what are you doing to get them actually in the door and paying attention to what their kids are doing again? So I think that it goes back to what Ron was saying earlier with outreach and relationship building.
Something we're not super good at all of our schools, but I learned it from the swim school my daughter goes to. At the end of the swim class, the kids go in like one door for swimming and they come out another, and the parents have to meet them at that door. So they all stand there with their towels. And as they come out, the parents line up and the instructor gives every single parent something the kid did well and something they want them to work on at home. And I was watching it, and like every parent stands there and like nods their heads in agreement, but they're getting all that feedback, like you're saying, Mr. Kokinas, like every time. It's not like cycling through, if you have 300 students, that takes 6 months to get through. This was every class they got feedback. And we try to do it at our schools. I don't know if it happens so perfectly, but I do think I agree that the more feedback, the better. But also, you can also just see if you're a parent, if you're paying attention, your kid is getting better or not. I mean, we use the words, confidence comes from competence, which is exactly what you guys are all saying, right? They just have to be good at it. If they're not good at it, you're not going to trick them with a high five.
Agreed.
And parents are watching and they know if their kids mess it up, right? So it's so important for us to be on that stuff.
Mr. Solomon, a question for you. So some of you guys know I invest in real estate. I have a handful of rental properties. I have an apartment building I just bought a few months back, and I am like getting more aggressive about trying to acquisition more and more properties presently. Interest rate sucks. It's harder. Fine. When you're expanding into multiple areas, how important is it to get a better lease? It's a secure location. At what point do you want to like buy your own place to protect yourself on your rent control when things hit the fan?
I think that's a multiple question, multiple answer. Like I was thinking earlier with the depression question, even like setting up the school now, like it was in a depression. Like if we lost 30% of our students, could we still afford to pay everybody what they're getting paid now or close? Could we afford our rent? Like build it like it was, because so many businesses, everybody reads the same books, I'm sure that I do. Like so many businesses were started during bad times, right? Like that's because everybody during bad times is much more capital efficient. During the good times, like over the last 10 years, so many tech companies are in giant trouble because they had ridiculous amounts of money just to waste. But when there's no money, then all of a sudden you're super efficient. Like if we all acted as if we're in a depression now, or we know that it's 100% coming, besides the relationship with our students, is everything in place. Obviously, we like to buy our buildings, in general, because it does control our rent forever. But there's plenty of time, but none of it really matters. At the end of the day, it's only the person running the school that really matters. Owning the building is just like is just a bonus. And we're starting a couple schools now, like in rec centers after, and we've done it in the past over the last 30 years, but I think Mr. Sell was talking about it. His mom did that. And I was like, hey, we should do more of that. And we have a couple that are going to be opening up soon. And then, hopefully if they do well, we'll buy a building, we'll put them into the building. So I think you really just need to have the really good people. And that's what I think the difference between, building, like creating a living and creating a real life is having that leverage of lots of people that are on the same mission. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's a sporadic conversation that we just had.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the
Glenn,
part-
what you-
Mr. Sully, I think you said this as like a joke, but I think it's also super true. Like charging the right tuition now. Like you said, like a joke, like, oh, raise prices. Yeah, well, you can help a lot more people in 8 years if you're charging really good tuition and you have the resources to pay your, team and help those people that can't afford it. And,
Agreed.
if you're just skating by now, like it's not going to work.
No,
I think I interrupted you, Mr. Kiefer. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna piggyback on what Solomon was talking about. I think a lot of times when we're in a recession or bad times, that's when people are like, man, I wish I had reserves. I wish I had money put aside, and they don't think about it till the shit hits the fan. Whereas now everyone is listening to this, you should have at least 3 months, hopefully 6 months reserves to be able to keep your team employed if things go bad, to do whatever you need to do. If you need to increase marketing as everyone else is pulling back, like we had so much success during the pandemic because all of our competition stopped marketing, and we're like, well, this is a great opportunity for us because we get the cheapest leads possible. But the only reason we were able to do that is because we had reserves put aside, so we didn't have to worry about what was going to happen next month or the month after. And anyone listening, I think just taking your profit and just putting it into account until those reserves are there, and then start pulling it out and investing in other things. But I hope everyone in our industry is really putting an important focus on that right now, because it's going to be essential.
agreed.
So the next part of that podcast and the connection it made, in which I forget what book, maybe The Power of Habits is where I first read this. But the idea of giving yourself grace when you're setting goals. So, the example was in video games, you have like your extra life, right? And you keep playing because you get an extra life and an extra life. And in goal setting, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week. And then you miss one day, and that one day turns into 1 month because you feel like you're not achieving your goals because I just blew up everything. So giving yourself the grace of, okay, I'm going to go to the gym 3 to 5 days a week. And, statistically, you end up going way more than if your goal was, going 7 days, right? So I'm curious.
Wait, I want to.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was
Okay.
going to say, I wanted to give a video game analogy that we could all use if anybody's, teaching in their schools, or you're helping them do like a lesson a week. One of the parents at our schools talked about like challenges. He was doing lesson a week, and he's like, can I do my own lesson a week? And this guy's awesome. I'm like, sure, say whatever you want. And he talked about Pac-Man, and he said, what makes Pac-Man super exciting? If you just like went through the maze and like ate all the dots, it wouldn't be that exciting. But it's the ghosts that are trying to get you, and you're trying to escape them. And when they do get you, what do? You get another life, and then you have like a new plan of how you're gonna get through it. And that's life, right? And it's the same thing. It's exciting on the video game. You should think of life as the same thing. When you get eaten or you get, knocked down or whatever, you should think of it as exciting, because now you can figure out a new way to get to your goal, just like you would in a video game, instead of being upset and sad. And I thought it was like such a good way for kids to go like, oh, wait a minute, I shouldn't get mad if I had a bad test or whatever, or failed my karate test or failed a spelling test. I figured out a new way to study, just like I would figure out a new way to get through Pac-Man, if they knew what Pac-Man was, of course.
No, that's perfect.
All right, Sensei Michael, I apologize on your
No,
birthday.
great example. No. So anyways, I'm curious for your own goals, your own personal goal setting. If you have a goal you want to share that you're working on, good accountability for everybody. But do you give yourself that grace? I think for me personally, like if anybody reads Enneagram, like my 8 personality is just like, oh no, it has to be every day, or I'm like a loser and that's the end of it, and I'll just do it again tomorrow kind of thing. But I certainly get the statistics and the logic of, oh, this is a better way to set goals.
Tried reflecting on a daily basis at the end of the night, pen and paper, kind of just jot down what I did well and didn't do well. It certainly helped, acknowledging some of the victories that you have that you don't really pay attention to, because a lot of times we just beat up on each other and we just have to keep pushing forward. So that has helped slightly. It has helped, which is a common thing.
I just started using a habit tracker app on my phone, just because I noticed in my morning routine, I do like 70% of it, like 70% of the time. So like I'd miss like one thing one day, and the next day I'd get that thing, but I'd miss something else. And it was just consistent thing, which I feel like I do okay giving myself grace, because I think failure is a good way to learn. But it just helps me to be more consistent with hitting all of those habits on a daily basis. Plus it'll pop up like reminders if I haven't done something by a certain time. to make sure I go back and finish it.
What's your habit tracker app you're using for people that I'm sure are gonna ask?
Yeah, let me look it up. It is. It's not
Relentless
called
habit tracker.
It's not called habit something, so hold
It's
on.
called Habit Relentless. Relentless habits.
Relentless movement.
I think Mr. Sell has one too. It's like ignite your spark of habits.
Yeah, it's just called habit.
Habit, easy, got it.
Something like that.
I gotcha.
All right, I have a question. So this whole like give yourself grace, how do you moderate that with people that use that phrase just as an excuse of really never getting anything done? Like, oh, I gave myself grace today. And like every day, like there's a checklist of things to get done and it's just not getting done, but they're always I don't beat myself up. Like, how do you moderate the two things? Like, it's easy. I feel like 8 type personalities
You
to
don't
not
hang
kill
around those
yourself.
people, Solomon. That's how you cut those people out of your life.
Yeah,
Come
I
on,
don't
guys.
think you should. I don't think you should give yourself grace. I mean, come on. I mean, how are we going to get anywhere if we're constantly giving ourselves grace?
I agree and disagree because I think, well, at least myself, I'm like the most self-critical person on the freaking planet. Like, even if we hit a goal, I don't want to celebrate because I'm always thinking like, what's the next thing? So for me, because I'm so self-critical, sometimes when I'm reflecting on the day at the end of the night, I set too high of standards sometimes as far as the amount of stuff I'm going to get done or how quickly we're going to get to something, that if I don't give myself grace, I'll probably go crazy. But I understand what you're saying, Ron. I also think your internal voice has a lot to do with it as well. Like, I don't know, like, I feel like my internal voice is like a combination of Tim Grover and David Goggins, where it's like, if I don't do something, it's like, stop being a bitch, Adam, go do this, like, cut it out. So that helps as well.
So there's another phrase that they use in franchising that we use as well, and franchise is all about following the system, right? So it's 99% equals 0%. And when people say, well, I did this, 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 and this, but I didn't do this. Okay, well, that counts as 0. And I feel like, and Michael, we talk about that during, when we're talking to our future partners or people that are trying out to be future partners, whatever, we like drill that over and over again. Guys, what's 99%? 0, right? So don't tell me you read half the book or 3/4, you missed the chapter. I don't know. Either did or you did not. So I think with Mr. Sell saying, I get the idea of giving the grace and like, you can't just beat yourself up all the time, but at the same time, you can't make excuses either. I feel like it is a tough, and I guess the inner dialogue, Mr. Kiefer saying is probably, but I don't know how to get people to have the correct inner dialogue. And I guess it's the correct people. I guess, all right, a lot of people have to get kicked out now. Mr. Sell, I'll send him to you.
Maybe it's just a mindset shift. All right. Like, all right. So we have this, project or task or whatnot, and we fail at it, right? It's okay. We just do it again and do it again and do it again. And if the day runs out, I do it again in the morning, like it's like, I don't beat myself up for not doing it. At the same time, I get right back on the horse and keep moving forward. Right. So in every time that I've ever, failed at something, which happens often, and I'm not just saying that. I think everybody likes to say, "Oh yeah, failure. I built on my," but that just, you fail and you just try it again, right? And there's no thought process behind it. So there's no grace to give myself because I didn't put that much thought into it. I just got back on task and kept going the next day. I guess maybe that's crap. That's grace. That's the definition of grace, I think. Just get back and go.
But it's also you're doing it without feeling sorry for yourself. Without being like, oh, I suck at this, like without negative self-talk, because that's what gets you back on the horse the next day. And I think that's where a lot of other people fail is they fail and then it's like, all right, pity party, get down on myself, I'm not good enough, and then stops them from trying again.
100%.
So I think of it as, there's a point of it where you're measuring your progress. I think that's what you were talking about, Adam, right? Like, hey, I didn't get to my goal, but I've gotten this far, and like that, so that's how you keep going. But I think the other piece of this is letting your ego get in the way, and you never set your goals big enough because you're protecting your ego the entire time. So it becomes like, oh, I'm not going to set I'm going to set an easy goal because this hard goal is either too scary to say, or I'm going to be embarrassed if it doesn't work. So I'm curious for all of you successful people on the call, either, hey, how do you keep your ego in check? Or what goals do you know you're not setting for yourself right now because your ego is like, you're protecting yourself. Like, hey, you really should be pushing harder, but I'm not going to say that out loud, but now you can say it on Facebook for everybody. And protect my ego.
I think surrounding yourself with people that call you out on your bullshit is key. I feel fortunate, like the people I have working around me are very transparent with me and will give me very direct feedback, whether it's good or bad. And I think when you surround yourself around people like that, then they keep you accountable to hit those things, or they tell you like that goal is freaking crazy. And then I'm like, yeah, I know, but let's shoot for it anyway. Or they're like, hey, you didn't do this today. You said you're going to do it. You got to lead by example. Like, I want people like that around me.
All right. So what's the goal you're working on now that either A, this is the crazy goal, or if you're really being introspective, like, hey, where do you need to push harder?
Our 10-year goal for franchise expansion is freaking crazy. But we're still going to shoot for 1,000 locations in 10 years, regardless. But even like, honestly, I don't tell too many people that goal just because of the looks I get from them when I'm like 1,000 location in 10 years. Like, I already know the look that's going to happen when I tell most people that goal. But also when I see that look, it just motivates me more to hit that goal. And I just remember all those weird looks I get every time I say it out loud. But the cool thing is our team is entirely on board with that crazy goal and getting there.
My
I mean,
guess
just so we're clear,
is that
it's
there's
not a
looks.
crazy goal.
Right, you get those looks from martial arts
I
industry
agree.
people, not from any other industry that has thousands of locations.
Yeah,
Right, like,
but
you
in
know-
this industry, it would be considered a crazy goal. Like we had when Travis presented at the summit, he just showed like our 3-year goal, and it was really, we even edited it because we thought what he was going to present was going to be like everyone would instantly think it was BS or like unattainable or whatever. So we actually like cut it in half when we presented it, and there were still people that were like, "There's no way you're going to do that. Like, no way you're going to get 6 locations in 3 years or 7 locations in 3 years." And to us, we're like, we love it when people say that stuff. We absolutely love it. Yep.
So I
I
try.
mean, if you look at like Massage Envy or any other franchise, I mean, like, or Orange Theory Fitness or any of them,
Yeah.
I mean, they would say 10,000 or 1,000 in 10 years. They'd be like, oh, are you going slow on purpose?
Yeah.
You
I
know what I
agree.
mean? Like, oh, you're holding it back. Like, so the people that make these faces, the negative faces, are just don't know what they're talking about.
I agree.
So I try to equally spend enough time with like other successful professionals that are nothing to do with my industry. And that
Yeah.
way, when I talk to them and network with them, like, what I'm learning about just different things in different worlds and different professions, but also like their goals are just so different than mine that it allows me to just kind of stay humble in the process and just kind of see how other people think. And that, at least that way I don't get the weird faces, because no one's going to judge me on my goal, my space, if they don't really understand,
True.
my space that well, and vice versa. And then my goal is 40 rental properties in 5 years, halfway there.
Oh yeah. It's awesome.
40 units or 40 properties?
40 properties. So if it's a combination of multi-units, then I'll count it as well.
Amazing.
I have a question for just to define your question. I feel like 100% I catch myself. My ego is like, holding me back from doing something because I don't, if I said it, I say it out loud, then I look stupid if I don't get it. So then I'm like, or without a doubt, but like, when is it not your ego? And it's just like, as I get older, I don't also want to, with each goal comes some level of risk, right? Like financial risk, reputational risk, like whatever. So, 10 years ago, what I was willing to invest in, let's say just with money, was way different than now. I think like, hell no, I'm not doing that again. Right. Like, even if it went well, like it could have not gone well. So like, where is it like not your ego? And it's just like, okay, I'm in a different place in life now. There's no way I'm going to risk losing all this. So like, where is that? That's a question for everybody, or Michael, since he asked the question.
I think that's just game
It's-
intelligence.
It sounds like you're just protecting your ego. I'm just teasing.
It
I don't-
might be, I don't know.
There's probably some real self-awareness in there, right? Of like, okay, like, what is this really? Am I using, I'm risk adverse now because I'm, 49 as an excuse? Or, I have a 2-year-old that's going to go to college in 16 years. And I'm, I want to spend, I'm going to value my time differently now and invest my resources differently now.
It doesn't have to be about me specifically. It was a
No,
general
it's
question for the
specifically-
group.
I assume, as in all things, I assume this just becomes like therapy and advice for, Mr. Brenner today. So
I do. Yeah. Anybody who goes to therapy gets good advice. Call me. I love to hear other people's therapy advice. That's true.
Mr. Sell, what's the big goal, or where do you need to really do some introspection and set a bigger goal?
Yeah, so we've been working on the same goal for the last year, and that is to triple the amount of people that we serve. But we want to stay in that 99% retention as well. So we're investing heavily into looking at other vertical markets and things like that. And matter of fact, I think we've built out like 8 different websites that've been built. All the marketing plans are done. We're just waiting to pull the trigger. But more importantly, like we're investing in infrastructure that no one really sees to make sure that we can, handle the folks, because we don't want them to come on board and then quit, a month later, just like in martial arts, right? So our goal right now is really building our infrastructure. And when I say by that, I'm not talking about computer servers and all that stuff, but I'm talking about our team, how knowledgeable they are, their communication level and skills that they have to work with people. So really our goal is just really, triple the next, year or so, a couple years, and but also make sure that we keep the people for a long time. So not too hairy and audacious, but it's really where our heart and our head is.
I have a question. Why does it matter? It's going to sound bad. But why does it matter if retention is not 99%? If I said your retention is going to be 80% from now on, so it's a giant amount different, but your income is going to be 10 times what it is. You're going to have 5 times the amount of clients.
Sure.
But would you say okay? Or would you say no? It has to be 99%.
I would say okay and keep working on getting it to 99%.
Right. And then the other thing I was just thinking, because I think one of the huge benefits that you have is, compared to other software companies now, is you were born. We talked about this the other day at breakfast. You were born in the martial arts. Like, you have a very specialized knowledge. And I know that every time I've gone, and I don't have the same pedigree as a lot of you guys do that were kind of born into it, but I've been in it a long time at least. Is a lot of times when I've gone outside of the industry for like business, not business I investing, so that doesn't really matter, but like businesses that like I'm operating, it's so much harder because I don't have that like very specific knowledge that I kind of, in my head, it's like a business is a business is a business, but it's really not exactly the same thing. And then if you haven't read, I would suggest, or even just Google search the basic story, Acres of Diamonds. And I'm always reminding myself of that, the concept of, everything you have is already right there. You just aren't mining it enough, but you don't notice it or something like that. So anyway, that's all my thoughts about that. I can share with you data at Acres of Diamonds if you forget to look it up.
All right, so while we have a couple minutes, I'm going to be really selfish with my last topic for today. So me and Solomon very coincidentally share the same birthday. And my question to Solomon today at lunch, Nick, how old are you?
I'm 33.
Oh, now I felt bad about it. I thought I was the youngest one here. I felt really good about myself, but now I feel less good. But anyway, okay. So for Mr. Sell and Mr. Kiefer, your question. So I turned 34 today. If you could go back and give your 34-year-old, thank you, your 34-year-old self, or for Mr. Kokinas here, your 33-year-old self advice, what advice would you give? Solomon, since we already rehearsed this, do you want to?
Business or life advice?
Any advice?
Yes.
How old are you, Adam?
I'm 37.
37, I ain't that much older. Mr. Sell, how old are you?
50.
50, okay. So much the same as Solomon there. All right, so Solomon, you can share your advice first too, because you had some good stuff. And we'll give
Well, I'm way younger than Mr. Sell. Are you crazy? We're almost the same.
Yeah. 29.
Yeah. I mean, the advice that I felt like when he asked, first of all, he's been, in my life for 28 years. And I said, anything I know, I've already told you. But, I said that I would have had children sooner. I would have, and all the same stuff that everybody would say, like, I've always saved money anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I would have taken care of my health. I think I always have, and I've never not exercised. I probably would have ate healthier sooner, cut more sugar out sooner. But at the end of the day, all that matters really is your health and your relationships, is what I said. But he does all that stuff already. So I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're already doing all the good things. The other thing I said was, I probably would have done at age 34, whoever was sitting to the left of me at lunch on the day of my birthday, I would have given them all my assets as a gift. And then I continue to give them all my assets every year thereafter. So just a thought.
Yeah, so you're getting depression proof over there, so that's good news for you. Happy to help.
I would say give yourself grace.
Amazing. Good full circle.
Now, the older I get, the more my kids and my wife and my family is important. I mean, it grows, younger. It was all about business, all about, teaching martial arts or getting to the next, stat. And I don't worry about stuff like that as much anymore because I'd rather spend most of my time with my family, which means I still have a business to run and I still have goals to go after. And so I just have gotten really great at focus, prioritize so that my time can be spent on really what matters to me. And because my family matters so much, it's really easy to look at my business too and say, hey, I've only got 4 hours today. What am I gonna go deep on and really get done? But and I didn't do that in the past. I was too excited about how big can I make a company or how many students can I teach and how much time can I spend on the mat. And I don't regret any of that because I loved it. Loved every second of it. Just my mind just shifted to loving these kids and my wife.
Yeah, in line with that, pretty much what I talked about at the summit is like you can choose both. Like you can have a super successful, profitable business, and you can have an extremely healthy and happy family life where you're spending time with your kids and your spouse and all of that. Yeah, that's something I wish I learned earlier on the business side. Yeah, I don't know. Hire the top people first, not the bottom people, is sort of my change of philosophy.
Oh, that's good.
I would have taught
That's
myself. 'Cause,
super good.
yeah, everyone always starts like assistant and then like whatever front desk, all that stuff. And now every company, I'm like, who's my C-level team that we're going to build out so that they can build the right team underneath them. And I wish I knew that like 15 years ago. That would have been awesome.
Like Solomon was saying, or Mr. Brennan was saying, all the answers are pretty much the standard answers you hear 100 times. Wake up earlier, go to bed, earlier as well. At 32, I began like praying intentionally with my wife, like out loud together as like a daily habit. And it was really healthy for our personal life. It was really healthy for us as a couple to be vulnerable and to have that routine and as a husband lead her. And I wish I started that a lot earlier. That's on a personal front. On a business, just be very clear on what you expect. I mean, I was very vague in a lot of areas and just things took longer.
All right, well, I appreciate all my great advice today. Thanks, team. That's amazing. Mr. Sell, do we have a restaurant for Thursday night?
Yes.
So Solomon and I are also in Tampa this week, which is like super nice. So I know I got to miss a very excellent breakfast yesterday. I was very sad that I got to miss it, but I think we have dinner together this week, right?
Yes, we will. Thursday night.
Do
We
know
also
where
have to
we're
come
at?
see. We also have to come see the building property.
Yeah,
so
let's do that tomorrow. Let's do that tomorrow. I'll
Thanks,
take you guys by.
What's the ETA completion?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
What's the ETA on when it's going to be done?
I don't know, but they said 6 months, right?
It's not bad.
About a year ago, they said that. So,
All right.
but I don't know. I think next 3 months will be in it, right? So we're already picking out furniture and that kind of stuff to have it stand by. So I'm hoping the next 3 months and we'll be done and ready to go. I mean, the walls are up, the walls inside are up. The next thing is they're running Cat 6 cables and electric everywhere. The roof is on, I mean, not the whole roof, just the whatever that thing's. I don't know anything about construction, but the roof thing, and yeah, so it's going pretty fast.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Solomon, we can have a bet between us. What gets done first? New Spark headquarters or my kitchen that's been in the works for about 14 months now? My money is on Spark.
So getting the keys to our second location in there too.
Okay, sounds good. We have a
We're
3-way bet.
on month 9 right now.
Oh man.
Crazy. All right. Well, gentlemen, as always, it was a pleasure. Thank you all so much. Mr. Sell, looking forward to hanging out with you tomorrow. Nick, thanks for filling in today. Totally appreciate
Sure.
it. Adam, always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
happy birthday to you, Michael. Bye bye.
Thank
Yes,
you.
happy birthday, guys.
Happy birthday, guys.